Hello, welcome to my first tutorial. So today the tutorial is going to be a little cow parsley tutorial, a very simple beginner's tutorial of one of my favourite little plants. You will learn reverse split stitch, stem stitch and French knots. So I'll actually put it in a little frame, which might be a little hoop, which might be easier for you to see actually, because I'm trying to hold it up unsuccessfully. After this, I will show you some things that you can do, things that you can make with it. But essentially this one is just about stitching the cow parsley and how to press it afterwards. So that's what you're going to be learning to stitch. And I tend to keep all of my embroideries, all of the notions that I'm using, in a little bag. And for this you are going to need some threads, a pair of scissors, a needle, something to embroider on, and a hoop if you have it. Don't worry if you don't. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if I've gone too fast or too slow. Just let me know what you think. And if there's anything else you'd like to see. So yeah, enjoy. I hope it's good. So, welcome to my first little tutorial. First of all, I always like to keep all of the things that I'm going to be using in a little bag, because it's just easier to keep them all together in one place, so you're not foraging around looking for them each time. So what do you need? So I've decided to use a piece of linen. I was going to use a pillowcase, but I've decided to use linen because it's just much easier to show you. So you need a hoop. No, you don't need a hoop, but if you've got a hoop, that's great. So this one is 5 inches. If yours is smaller or bigger than that, that's absolutely fine. The only reason you need a hoop really is to make your stitches more easy, more even. So some scissors. I'm using a friction pen here, which you can get from Amazon, most supermarkets. If you haven't got one at the moment and it's more difficult to get it, then use a pencil. So the threads I'm using, I've got DMC 3865, Anchor 830 and DMC 3012, but that's just what I'm using. You can use absolutely anything. You don't even have to stick with green and creams. I tend to wrap mine around pegs because that's what I've always done, but there are far more sophisticated ways of keeping your threads, but that's just simple, cheap and easy to do. So, oh, and I have a little magnifying glass because, well, the light's not always fantastic and, well, it's just easier for me to use, but obviously it's not necessary. So the first thing you need to do is draw your design. So centre your piece of work and just imagine it inside your hoop. Now there is going to be a PDF download on my website, but honestly you don't need it. You're going to draw a really simple design, if the pen actually works. So you just draw your first stem. I'm using linen. I absolutely love linen, but you can use anything. And don't worry about making it perfect. It doesn't have to be even. Nature is not perfect. So you're just drawing a really simplistic cow parsley. Doesn't matter if you make a mistake with a pen, that's going to disappear afterwards anyway. Make that one a bit bent. That's it. And having said centre it, I actually haven't centred it, so that's typical of me. Say one thing and do another. So draw another one in. That's it. It doesn't matter if they're not all the same size, doesn't matter at all. Okay, so that's your design, it's that simple. So your hoop, you just need to loosen the screw at the top and place one hoop underneath your fabric. Make sure it's loose enough to go over it comfortably, and then pop that over the top. and then just basically tighten the screw, and then just pulling from both sides. Just make sure the fabric is taut, but don't overstretch it. You don't want your stitches being pulled, and you don't want the fabric being pulled out of shape, just so that it's nice and tight on there, which just makes it easier for you to stitch. So gently pull, keep tightening. Okay, you're ready to go. So, sorry this is sideways, really sorry this is sideways. So unwind your thread, and floss comes in 6 strands if you're using embroidery floss. So I use 2, you can use as many as you want, you could use all 6 if you wanted. I'm using 2 because that's the look I like. So separate 2 out. You can either separate 2 like that, or you can just hold it firmly, pull 1 and just pull it out. And it'll just straighten up afterwards. So thread your needle. You need a little knot at the end, because how I start my work is I use a waist knot. So just wrap it around the needle 2 or 3 times, hold the needle, pull it through, and you'll have a little knot. Okay, here we go. So put your needle in, and you're leaving your knot on the surface, and then you're going to make 2 or 3 tiny little stitches, like tiny little seed stitches, and this will be securing your thread. So you need to put these where you're going to sew over at some point. So because we're going to be sewing over the stem, just put the little stitches on the stem. Okay, that will be enough to secure it. So first stitch. So you bring the needle up, and the main thing about doing this is that you're going to keep your stitches fairly even all the way up. If you're going to do long stitches, that's fine, it will give you a completely different look. So here we go. So first stitch in, and this you're doing stem stitch here if you're keeping the thread below or to your right, and then you're going to be bringing the needle up for the first one in the middle there. So bring the needle up, pull it through. Ideally you pull your thread down at the back first, but I've never had any problems with this. So that's outline stitch, keep it below, stem stitch. So you go in, holding the thread down, and you bring the needle up where your stitch went down. Bring it up, pull it through, and pull it through, tighten it, don't pull it tight, but keep it taut. So go down again, keeping the thread below, and come up again, right close to the other stitch. So it looks like I'm really pulling this hard. I'm not, I'm just keeping it taut. So down, keep the thread below. Sorry, this is going to go out of camera. I need to get better at this. So once you get into a rhythm, you're just going down equal amount, and then once you get used to it, you'll actually be able to bring the needle up each time, so you're doing it in one stitch. So you need to get rid of that knot now, actually, because it's going to get in your way. So just snip it close to the fabric, but obviously don't put a hole in your fabric. That's not a good idea. Just pull it away as you're doing it, and just carry on. So needle in and up again where you went in before. Keeping the thread down, it's going to get tangled. In and up again. And that is stem stitch. And it just gives a really attractive, well, stem look. So if you were to do longer stitches here, you would have a more, well, experiment with it, see what you think, see what you like, but you'd end up with a more free looking embroidery. So that's your first stem. So now you are going to do split stitch. Actually, it's not split stitch. These, what are they? I think they're called umbels. What are they? This is going to be reverse slip stitch. So needle up and then one stitch forward as if you're going to do a running stitch. I'm really sorry, this is sideways. Needle down, pull right down, and then bring it up an equal distance along. It's gone out of focus, I'm really sorry. And then you're splitting the stitch. So you've got two strands of floss here. So when you put the needle back in, you are splitting the stitch. So going right down between the two stitches. And pull it through. And that's your first stitch. I'm really sorry about the focus. So bring it up at equidistant again. So your stitch length is even. And then you're going to split the stitch again. So this is called reverse split stitch because you can come up through the split stitch. This is going down through it, down and splitting the stitch. And when it actually goes into focus, you'll see it just gives some lovely, neat stitches. Split the stitch. Up. And split the stitch again. And for the final stitch, I tend to just give one smaller stitch there, just to secure it. Now you can go across to the second one if you want to, but I like to sort of travel back down that little stem that we've done. So just pass the thread behind the stitches to get you back. So you sort of travel down to get you back where you want to be. It just gives you a neater finish. So then go back to do the second side. I'm really sorry about the focus. And you start again, so one stitch forward, equal distance along, and then back to split the stitch. Eventually. Okay, up again, and then back and split the stitch. So I don't think you need to hear me talking anymore, but I'll just show you a sort of little speed up of the rest of it. So this is just part one, so I'll give you time to go away and stitch your stem and your little stalks, and in the next one I'll show you how to do the French knots, and hopefully, I'm really sorry, I will have sorted the focus out a little bit. First time, and note to self, Sherry, don't do things where people stitch where they have to have their head turned to the side, and ideally keep it in focus, super helpful. But anyway, I'm going to put this video up anyway because I've been waffling on about doing it for so long, and hopefully it will help you. Hopefully you can see enough here to give you an idea.